In this podcast, I'm going to explain how to make podcasts. So, this is actually going to be a PowerPoint presentation about how to make a podcast. So, first what you want to do is, and this is just for our school district, you want to contact a member of our technology team, and what they'll do is they'll set up a workflow for you on the server, and they will also issue you a username and password. So that's your first step. Okay, so once you're ready to actually make a podcast, you want to search for the program called Podcast Capture. This program is already on your Mac computer. So if you go up to the arrow in the corner of your screen, if you're looking at your desktop, you want to type in podcast, and you're going to click on Podcast Capture. And what you'll get is a login screen. Now this is where you have to have the login in order to proceed. So you're going to go ahead and click on Connect after you've entered your username and password. You're going to get some options here. So first up, let's take a look at video. Now this is an example of a screen capture that I made, and it's going to use the built-in iSight camera right on your Mac. So it will record whatever was sitting in front of the camera, you, a student. Okay. Another option is just an audio podcast. So if you click on audio, you're just going to see a picture of a microphone, and when you click on the microphone, you'll get a countdown, and then you can just go ahead and start talking, and it will record anything that you're saying. We're going to skip here to the file option. You can publish a file to a podcast. So, for example, if you had a collection of student assignments that had been submitted, you could make a podcast of all of those things. Maybe you're an art teacher, for example. So you would just go here and select your files and make a podcast of files. Your last option is to make a screen podcast, and this is what I'm doing right now. So if you click on screen, the first thing that's going to come up, it will look something like this. Now this is actually a paused screen from another podcast that I made. So you'll hit the button down here, which currently says pause, but it would be a play button. So you'd hit that, and then you would start recording. And then what you want to do is you'll want to minimize this real quick so that you don't really get much of it in your screenshot. And if you look up here, you'll see to press F2 in any application. That might work on your computer, but it doesn't seem to work on any of our MacBooks. So you would want to minimize that real quick. Okay. And then once your podcast is almost complete, this is the screen that's going to come up. And then what you'll do is you'll have options. Start over if you think that you've made mistakes, or you can just hit publish. So if you hit publish, this is the next screen that will come up. You'll want to make sure that your workflow is selected. Like up here, my workflow says Megan Brewer, GHS. So just make sure that it says your name, and then you can pick whatever title that you want, and you're going to type in a description. This is from a podcast that I made on RSS feeds. When you're done, you'll click done, and it will say your podcast is being submitted. And then a second later, it will say your podcast has been successfully submitted. Now you can either go ahead and make a new podcast, or you can just quit the program at this point. So you're probably asking yourself, how do I see my podcast? So what you need to do is you need to visit the district podcasting site, which will connect you with the podcasting server. And this is what the site looks like. Now, over here, Group Wikis and Blogs, you should see your name pop up. For example, this is my site right here. If I click on my site, it says Welcome to Mrs. Brewer's Podcasting Wiki. And if you search through recent changes, you'll be able to find all of my podcasts. You could provide students with links to this site, or parents, or whoever you want to see your podcasts. Okay, so that's just a little bit about how to make different types of podcasts at GHS.